Yeah, hey everyone, Matt Hartman here, and today I wanted to elaborate a bit further on some of the use cases surrounding dynamic identity propagation. I did create a video previously on how this works, and I've gotten a lot of questions surrounding the fact that, this works great in use, in theory, can I actually see it implemented given some sort of end user use case? So with that, what we're going to be showcasing today is Dynamic Auth in action, specifically with a BigQuery table with salary pertinent information. So as you can see here, I did define a salary table with a name, department, salary information, and any sort of contact related email. You can see the data available here. So obviously there's 4 different rows available total. And with that, what I basically did is I said, here's a row level access policy. And what I basically said is, okay, only return rows where your email address is equivalent to the end user. So with that, obviously it's ensuring that end users are only retrieving their pertinent salary information when interacting with this ADK agent. With that, typically, obviously without this row level access policy or your typical out of the box functionality would be, okay, I have a service account is assigned a set of permissions, and it would probably end up returning all of these details made available. So with that, I have my row level access policy, and then the next inevitable question is, okay, how can I use my end user auth and prompt the user to sign in, very similar to what we did previously, to only return their pertinent data. So with that, here I am in my ADK agent that I created. I got into more implementation specific details on dynamic identity propagation in my previous video, if you would like to watch that. But basically what I did is I have an agent, your model, your typical tools. What that tool is it's a BigQuery connector tool that allows me to list salaries. Again, no specific details on what salaries to list, any sort of filter conditions or anything along those lines. And like we've talked about in my previous video set, you have your auth credential and auth scheme, which defines, okay, here's how I push a user to sign in and grab their credential set so that I can apply that row level filtering within BigQuery. So with that, let's get right into it. So I'm going to run the ADK via web interface. And what you'll see is once it's running, I'm going to select an agent, BigQuery Dynamic. I'll say hello. Give it a second for it to load, to render all of its dependencies, kind of all the goodiness that it needs to do when you initially run it. And it's basically going to prompt me to say, okay, anything I could dynamically retrieve for you. I'll just say, let's say something malicious just for this use case. Let's say I would like salary information, list all salaries I have access to, which should just be mine. There's 4 total. But again, I only want my pertinent information returned. So with that, as you'll see in a second, it's going to force me to sign in. So basically, here's my user identity that's uniquely locked to that specific row. I'll give it consent behind the scenes. I'll allow the underlying functionality. And what you'll now see is it's only going to return my pertinent data. So just give it a second to consume BigQuery and render this output back to the end user set. So there you go. Of course, here's the salary information I was able to find because it's unique to my identity. So what you can see, just to prove this all out, is here's my execution logs for that underlying connection invocation. So here's my execute connection process. Here's the connector that it consumed. So this is my BigQuery connector, the underlying query, and then what we'll see is the response data, which is shown here. So just returning only my pertinent data, given the dynamic auth config that is passed to the credential set and to the underlying connector operation. So if we were to decode this token, you'd basically see that this is me and my identity, and that's inherently mapped to the end user auth service. So that's what I wanted to showcase today. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.